Avowed is a fantasy RPG where you explore an epic world, fight enemies with magic and swords, and make choices that actually matter. And honestly, it's got some great things going for it. The combat feels powerful, and switching between weapons and spells is fun, but sometimes it feels like it could be just a little smoother. The world is filled with history, secrets, and cool locations, but there are moments where it feels a little empty, like something's missing. The story has some awesome moments and solid writing, but at times, it doesn't quite hit as hard as you'd expect. It's a strong RPG with some great ideas, and while it's not flawless, it's definitely worth playing if you love deep worlds and big choices.
What do you know of the living lands?
Huh? Lay down, it's time to die!
A Way Out is a co-op action-adventure game where you and a friend play as two prisoners trying to escape from jail and survive on the run. The coolest thing about this game is how both players always have something important to do, whether it's sneaking past guards, solving puzzles, or making quick choices that actually change how the story plays out. The split-screen gameplay makes everything feel more cinematic, and the story is surprisingly emotional.
Come on, scumbag!
Come on! Where are you going?
Though some of the dialogue can feel a little cheesy at times, but honestly, the experience of playing through this with a friend is just so unique that any small flaws don't really matter.
Name and number, please.
Vincent Moretti, 3465.
Vincent. Nope, there's no Vincent here, sorry.
There's something really special about Animal Well. It's a puzzle platformer where you're exploring this underground world that's full of secrets, strange creatures, and tricky puzzles, and the game never really tells you what to do. The atmosphere is really cool because it feels both mysterious and peaceful, and it makes you want to keep searching every corner for hidden surprises. The best part is how everything in the game connects in ways you don't expect. But at the same time, some puzzles can be really hard, and since the game doesn't give you hints, you might end up stuck. But if you love games that make you think and explore, it's an amazing experience. Baldur's Gate 3 is an absolutely incredible RPG. The level of freedom you have in this game is insane. You can make so many choices that actually impact the story and the world around you. The combat is really deep and strategic, plus there are so many different classes and abilities to experiment with. And the characters are fantastic. I got really invested in their stories and their relationships. Exploring the Forgotten Realms is a real treat too. There's so much to discover. It's a huge game though, so it can be a little overwhelming at times, and I did run into a few minor bugs. Also, the graphics aren't always the most cutting edge. But even with those small issues, this is still easily one of the top 5 games from the last 5 years. If you're a fan of RPGs or just love games with deep stories and lots of choices, you absolutely have to play it. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is an adventure game that really knows how to tell a story without using many words. And everything about it is designed to make you feel connected to these two brothers. I played this with my brother, and it was honestly one of the best couch co-op experiences because we had to constantly work together and figure things out. The puzzles are really creative, and the game has this fairy tale feeling that makes it feel like you're in a storybook. The only thing that might be tricky at first is controlling each brother separately. But once you get used to it, the game just keeps pulling you in until the very end. Overcooked All You Can Eat is a fast-paced co-op cooking game where you and your partner must quickly prepare and serve meals while dealing with total chaos in the kitchen. I played this game with my wife, and we both really loved how fun and crazy things got, especially when the kitchen suddenly caught fire, or when we had to run across moving platforms just to chop some onions. Some levels can get really stressful, especially when there's too much to do at once. But that's also what makes it so much fun. The graphics are bright and colorful, the controls feel smooth, and even though we argued a few times, we couldn't stop laughing the whole way through.
I think I got this.
So I finally got around to playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I was blown away by how much fun it is. The world is absolutely gorgeous, exploring it is a real treat. Combat is super engaging.
Let's finish this.
Switching between characters pulling off these awesome combos makes every fight exciting. The story is captivating too. Seeing these familiar characters again with some new twists is just fantastic. They really captured the magic of the original while adding their own spin, which is really cool. Even the side quests are enjoyable. They actually add to the world and the story instead of just being boring filler. Now, it's not perfect, of course. I did have a couple of minor issues. The camera can be a little wonky sometimes, especially in close quarters, and I did run into a few little glitches here and there. Plus, some of the dialogue can be a bit cheesy at times. But honestly, even with those small problems, I thoroughly enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's a fantastic game, and I would definitely recommend it to any fan of RPGs or anyone just looking for a really fun adventure.
Bring it!
If you're into classic arcade-style games, Streets of Rage 4 is an absolute must-play, and it's got everything. Tight controls, fast-paced combat, awesome hand-drawn art, and a soundtrack that keeps you pumped the whole time. Every level introduces new challenges, and the game rewards you for playing smart and stringing together big combos. Some of the later fights can feel a little unfair, and playing solo can get repetitive, but once you bring in a friend, the game is just pure chaos in the best way possible. Whether you're a longtime fan of the series or new to beat-em-ups, this is one of the best out there. If you're enjoying the video and want to support a growing channel, then please do subscribe and hit the bell icon. I gave Stellar Blade a try recently, and as an action RPG, it really shines with its fast-paced combat and gorgeous futuristic world. The gameplay is smooth, and pulling off combos feels great, especially against the challenging bosses that keep you on your toes. The visuals are top-notch, making every fight and every location look amazing. But I did feel like the story was pretty basic and the characters weren't all that interesting, which was a bit of a letdown. Even with that, the combat and graphics are so well done that it's still a fun experience. It's definitely a solid pick for anyone who loves action-packed games with stunning visuals. If you're looking for exciting combat, this game nails it. Silent Hill 2 Remake is a survival horror game that reimagines the classic with stunning graphics and a haunting atmosphere. It stays true to the original story, which is one of the best in horror gaming. I loved how they kept the creepy vibe while updating the visuals to look more realistic. The sound design is fantastic, making every moment feel tense and unsettling. The puzzles are well designed and add to the mystery. My only complaint is that the combat still feels stiff and a bit outdated. But overall, it's a great remake that fans of the series will really appreciate. It's definitely worth playing if you want a chilling experience.
The place is coming down!
Okay!
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is this exciting action-adventure game where you step into the shoes of Indy himself and go on a globe-trotting quest to uncover a mysterious ancient artifact. It's got everything you'd expect from an Indiana Jones game: thrilling chases, challenging puzzles, and plenty of exploration. I really love the way they captured the spirit of the movies. The game feels very authentic, and it's full of those classic indie moments. The combat is fun, too. It's a mix of brawling and using your whip, and it feels really satisfying.
Yeah? Well, I should have done a lot of things.
The story is engaging. It's a classic Indiana Jones adventure with plenty of twists and turns. If I had to mention a small downside, maybe it's that some of the puzzles can be a little bit easy, but honestly, that didn't detract too much from my enjoyment. Overall, it's a fantastic game, and if you're a fan of Indiana Jones or action-adventure games in general, then I highly recommend it. Empire of the Ants is a strategy game where you control an ant colony, managing resources, building tunnels, and defending against enemies to help your colony grow. I really liked how detailed the management system is, making you feel like you're actually leading a tiny army of ants. The graphics are surprisingly good, with realistic environments that make you feel like you're really in the ants' world. But I did find the controls a bit clunky at times, which made managing the colony a little frustrating. Even with that, it's a fun and unique take on the strategy genre. If you enjoy management games or just want something different, it's worth trying out. Celeste is all about climbing a mountain, but it's way more than just that. It's about Madeline facing her inner demons, and the way they weave that into the gameplay is just brilliant. The platforming is so tight and responsive, you feel totally in control of Madeline as she climbs and dashes through these crazy levels. I loved exploring each area, finding hidden strawberries, and learning new movement tricks. Okay, some levels were really tough, I'm not gonna lie. There were times I almost rage quit, but that feeling when you finally beat a hard part is so incredibly satisfying. The music is absolutely fantastic too. It really sets the mood and makes those tough climbs feel even more epic. Honestly, I can't think of anything I didn't like, maybe just that I wanted even more of it because I was completely hooked from beginning to end. It's a game that stays with you even after you've finished it. Mario Kart 8 is one of those games that you can play for hours and still want to keep going. The racing feels smooth, the tracks are super creative, and there's just something so satisfying about nailing a perfect drift and boosting past your friends. The game looks amazing, and the music makes every race feel even more exciting. The only thing that can be frustrating is how random the items can get, because sometimes, no matter how well you play, a single blue shell can ruin everything. But honestly, that chaos is what makes it so much fun, especially when you're playing with friends. Unravel 2 is a puzzle platformer where you and a friend control two tiny yarn creatures connected by a single thread, and together you have to solve puzzles and make your way through a beautiful, nature-filled world. The game feels really relaxing, but at the same time, some of the puzzles can be tricky, and there are even a few fast-paced sections that really test your teamwork. The controls are smooth, and the way both players have to work together to climb, swing, and jump makes everything feel super fun. The only downside is that the story is a bit vague, but honestly, the game is more about the journey than the story itself. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is a dark and intense action game where you play as Senua, a warrior who's battling her own mental health struggles while fighting to save her people. It's a really immersive experience, and the visuals are absolutely stunning. They're so realistic and detailed. The combat is brutal and visceral. It feels very weighty and impactful. I love the way they incorporated Senua's mental state into the gameplay. The voices in her head and the visual hallucinations really add to the atmosphere.
What have you done? Stop.
It's a very emotional game and it deals with some heavy themes. If I had to mention anything negative, it's that the game can be quite short and some might find the combat a little repetitive. But overall, it's a powerful and unforgettable experience. It's a game that stays with you long after you've finished it. Tekken 8 is the latest fighting game in the long-running series, delivering intense one-on-one battles with stunning visuals and a refined combat system. I was really impressed with how fluid and responsive the controls are, making each fight feel fast and satisfying, and the new gameplay mechanics add more depth without being too complicated. The character selection is fantastic, mixing returning favorites with some interesting newcomers, each with unique fighting styles. However, I did feel that the story mode was a bit short and could have been more engaging, but the multiplayer is where this game truly shines, offering a competitive and fun experience. Metaphor Refantazio is a really neat RPG where you're unraveling a big mystery in a fantasy world with a cool mix of turn-based combat and some unique twists. The art style is really eye-catching. It's very distinct and gives the game a lot of charm. The combat is strategic and enjoyable. There are loads of different characters you can recruit and each one has their own special skills, so you can really build your dream team. I had a blast trying out different party combinations and figuring out the best ways to beat the bad guys. The story is also pretty gripping with lots of twists and turns that kept me guessing. If I had to point out a little something, maybe it's that the game can be a bit tough. Sometimes some of the boss fights are pretty challenging, but honestly, that just made it feel even better when I finally won. All in all, it's a great RPG, and if you're into games with a good story, fun combat, and a unique vibe, then you should definitely check it out. Stalker 2 is this gritty survival game where you explore the Chernobyl exclusion zone, and it's a pretty intense experience. It's an open world and it's full of dangers from mutated creatures to rival factions, and the atmosphere is just incredible. It's so creepy and immersive. I loved exploring the zone, discovering hidden stashes and uncovering the secrets of what happened there. The shooting mechanics are solid, and the survival elements, like managing your resources, add a lot to the tension. It can be a tough game, though. The zone is a dangerous place, and you'll die a lot. And sometimes, the game can be a bit buggy. But if you're looking for a challenging and atmospheric survival game, then I definitely recommend it. It's a really unique experience. Cuphead is this incredibly stylish run-and-gun game where you play as these two cartoon cups who made a deal with the devil and now have to fight a bunch of crazy bosses to repay their debt. The visuals are absolutely amazing. It looks like a 1930s cartoon brought to life. The animation is so smooth and the character designs are so creative. The gameplay is tough as nails. I'm not gonna lie, it's a very challenging game, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Each boss fight is like its own unique puzzle. You have to learn their attack patterns and figure out how to dodge them. I love the variety of weapons and abilities you can unlock. It can get frustrating at times, you'll die a lot, but that feeling when you finally beat a boss that's been giving you trouble is just so satisfying. Honestly, the only real downside is that it's a very difficult game, so it might not be for everyone. But if you're up for a challenge and you appreciate beautiful art and tight gameplay, then I highly recommend giving it a shot.
Damn vacuum. Come on, we have to find Rose before she leaves.
It Takes Two is a co-op platformer where you and a friend play as a couple trying to fix their broken relationship, but instead of talking, you're solving puzzles and jumping through some of the most creative levels I've ever seen. The game constantly throws new mechanics at you, so it never gets boring, and the way each player has different abilities makes teamwork feel super important. The story has some funny and emotional moments, though sometimes it feels a little over the top. But honestly, the gameplay is so good that none of that really matters. If you have a co-op partner, this is a must-play.
Tuvok's crazy!
Yeah! Next time I'll find a smaller one!
I played Ghost of Tsushima a while back now, and it still stands out as one of the most beautiful open-world games I've ever experienced. Exploring the island of Tsushima is breathtaking. The scenery is absolutely gorgeous, and the way the wind blows through the grass and trees is just mesmerizing. The combat is really satisfying too. Learning different stances and mastering the katana feels great. The story is compelling and the characters are well developed. I really felt invested in Jin's journey. It's not perfect though. Some of the side quests can be a bit repetitive, and the stealth mechanics aren't always the best. Also, while the world is beautiful, some areas can feel a little empty, but even with those small issues, this game is amazing. If you're looking for a beautiful open-world game with great combat and a compelling story, you should definitely give it a try. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is this gorgeous Metroidvania game where you play as Ori, a little spirit who has to save his forest and his friends. It's a really beautiful game. The visuals are stunning and the world is so full of life. The platforming is incredibly smooth and responsive. You feel so fluid as you're jumping and dashing around. I loved exploring the different areas. Each one is unique and has its own challenges. The combat is also really fun. There are lots of different abilities you can unlock and upgrade. It can be a bit challenging at times. Some of the boss fights are pretty tough, but it's never unfair. Honestly, it's hard to find anything I didn't like about this game. Maybe if I had to nitpick, I'd say the story is a little bit simple, but it's still very heartfelt. Overall, it's a fantastic game. It's a must-play for any fan of Metroidvanias or platformers. Stardew Valley is a farming sim that starts with you inheriting a broken-down farm, and from there, it's all about turning it into something beautiful. You grow crops, raise animals, make friends, explore caves, and even build relationships with the townspeople. The best part is that there's no right way to play. Some people focus on farming, others on mining or fishing, and some just want to get married and start a family. The game is relaxing, but time moves fast, so planning your days can be a little tricky at first. The pixel art is beautiful, the soundtrack is cozy, and once you start playing, it's really hard to put down. Nine Sols is an action platformer set in a world inspired by Asian mythology, and right from the start, the hand-drawn visuals pulled me in with how beautiful and detailed everything looks. The combat is really fun with its mix of sword fighting and deflecting enemy attacks that feel super satisfying when timed right, although some of the platforming sections can be pretty frustrating because they need really precise jumps. And while the story is interesting and adds a lot of depth to the game, it does feel a bit slow in some parts. But overall, if you're into challenging combat and a unique, beautiful world, this game is definitely worth checking out.